Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Ivy Manor Music Show. This is your host, Mr. Brian Goff, bar manager here at Henley Hotels in beautiful Bar Harbor, Maine. I also handle all the live entertainment at our incredible outdoor venue, the Ivy Manor Inn, located at 194 Main Street, downtown Bar Harbor. I am super excited to have these next musical guests join the Ivy Manor Music Show. They just finished their first season at the Ivy Manor Inn as of last year. Once we got them signed to the active roster, they burst onto the scene, literally. They are a contingent from the very popular blues band Crying Out Loud. We have guitarist, singer, and frontman Mr. Brandon Stallard joining the Ivy Manor Music Show, along with his bandmate, keyboardist Mr. Matt Henley, also joining the Ivy Manor Music Show. Guys, welcome to the Ivy Manor Music Show. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having us, buddy.
Awesome.
A-
Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So great to see you guys again. I got a number of things I want to touch upon with you, so let's get right to it. Before we get into anything musically, guys, I'd just like for you to tell our listeners a little bit about yourselves, where you grew up, where you're from, and all that good stuff. Brandon, you first.
I'm from Virginia. It's one of those classic stories where we came up here for vacation about 7 years ago, and I never went home. It's amazing. I mean, Maine is just it's phenomenal, and especially the summers. And I remember when I moved up here, there was some guy like we were doing all the tourist stuff, and I was walking my dog down by the sand beach, and it was like October when I moved up, and the guy told me he said one summer here is worth five winters, and I well I don't know about maybe five, but definitely three.
No doubt. So Virginia to Maine, huh? I've heard this story before. People come up here, they get up here for a little getaway, they fall in love with it. Next thing you know, they're living up here. Seems like a lot of our musicians have that same story, and I know some people outside of music as well that have similar reasons for coming here. Matt, how about yourself? Where are you from? Where'd you grow up, and all that good stuff?
Born and raised in Maine. I've always lived here. I love it. Even the cold months. We still play music during the cold months, and that's kind of what keeps it exciting this time of year.
No doubt. I know you guys are very active during the season, if you will, which is May through October. Are you guys playing gigs here in the off season, or are you just taking advantage of the downtime and
Well,
perfecting your craft a little bit?
yeah, we a little bit of all of it. Like we never there's never a time where we've stopped gigging. Um, but I definitely tried really hard to slow down December, January, February, and then just started slowly ramping it back up. But we never stopped. But during that period of time, that December, January, February, we start working on new material, new tunes, writing songs. We've got a record out. We're getting ready to do another record. Working on stuff for that with the studio. So that's kind of what winter means for us. But yeah, there's never a time when we're not gigging. I mean, we're always, even in our slow months, we're 3 or 4 gigs a month at least.
That's awesome. Uh, I always like to ask our musicians this question. Matt, I'll start with you first. When did you start playing piano and keyboards? And what were the chain of events that inspired you to want to become a piano player?
One of my favorite questions. So I started playing when I was 4, and the reason I started playing was my grandfather. He played by ear, and I spent a lot of time with him growing up. He used to set me on his lap, and he would put his arms around and show me how to play stuff. And the first song I ever learned was "She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain." And after that, I just really grew a love of playing the piano, and it's blossomed ever since. I love what I do.
Very noticeable from where I'm standing and all those great gigs you guys did at the Ivy Manor Inn last year. Um, Sounds like your dad was your biggest inspiration. Once you kind of got older and started learning about all the great piano players that we have in the world, was there anybody that really kind of jumped out and was an inspiration to you outside your grandfather?
There's a lot of them. A few of my favorites obviously have to be Ray Charles, Billy Joel. and probably Reese Winans. Some of my biggest influences, just where I draw some of my creativity from, and you know, just a lot where I get my where I started with my basics for sure.
No doubt. Brandon, how about you? What led you to blues music, and when did you first pick up the guitar?
Yeah, so when I was a little kid, about 8, so my father was a professional musician when he was from the time he was 13. I mean, he was literally, I can't, different times, right? But his parents let him like tour and stuff. It was, different time. But he was a pro his whole life, and I was always surrounded with top level musicians. And when I was about 8, he started trying to teach me how to play guitar. He didn't really know a lot of guitar at the time. He was a drummer, and but he knew a few chords and a few things, and he tried to show me, and it didn't take. I had no interest. I couldn't. I mean, I learned a G chord and a C chord, and that was about as far as it went. And then, when I was about 13 or 14, I went and saw Back to the Future, and I came home and I was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm ready. Let's do this." And he starts giving me some basic chords again, and this time it took. And then as far as the blues, like my father was a hippie. He was into all the hippie tunes and all the freaky hippie stuff. I mean, like long-haired, freaky stuff. And but when it got to a point where he no longer could show me anything on guitar, because he was a drummer. This is before YouTube or any of that kind of thing, and he was like, well, I was like, what do I do? And he's like, well, I don't know anything about the blues, but I heard that if you want to be a great guitar player, learn blues. And he couldn't even tell me who to go listen to. He had no idea. Again, he's just a diehard hippie. So I just went into the record store when I was like 14, and I didn't have any idea. I'm looking at covers going, this one looks cool. I don't know. And I ended up with some Freddie King, some Albert Collins, and I literally never looked back. I mean, I as soon as I heard it, bam, 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 down. It's like, there it is. That's the stuff right there. And those 4 notes, changed my life.
That is so cool. So you guys have similar stories. It sounds like here, Matt is getting a lesson at 4 years old from his grandfather. You a little bit later getting a lesson from your father. Sounds like they were the first 2 people that kind of gave you a lesson, if you will. Once you guys got older, did you ever get any professional, music lessons, or had you already kind of learned what you needed to learn, and then you just kind of took it and ran with it from there?
I know Matt did a lot of training and even went to school. For me, I just started jumping in bands. And again, you got to remember, for me, I'm around working high-level musicians all the time. So that was sort of my school. Like I could just talk to their guitar player. He'd show up for practice on a Wednesday night, and I'd run downstairs with my guitar and be like, "Hey, wait a minute, real quick. What about this?" So that was kind of, and then for me it was playing, and then you're just playing and you're playing and you're playing, and as a result, I can tell you, Matt's training definitely allows him a thicker, more robust vocabulary. Like he's able to solve problems. Like I'll know something's wrong, and I'll bring it up, and Matt will know what it is. That's kind of the difference. But for me, I just started playing, and as much as I could, watching, learning, hanging out, talking, and it's surprising how much you learn just from hanging around people of the craft. You pick up just amp settings and different types of chords and sounds and tones and all this stuff that you never really think about, and you just get it through hanging around musicians.
Very cool. You kind of just perked my interest with Matt's schooling in music. Matt, can you talk about that a little bit? Where did you go to school, and what type of music were you playing when you were there?
So I started taking lessons at 4. I went to a woman for probably 4 or 5 years named Sarah Pendleton. She gave me all the basics I needed to, kind of get started and really start understanding what it is to play the piano. And then I moved on to playing with Daryl Rhodes. I studied with him from like 8 to 16 or 17. Um, and I give him the most credit of any musician to this day of putting me in the position that I am. He gave me so much to work with and to draw from over the course of my time with him that I can't thank him enough for being where I'm at.
That
And
is
then
very, very cool.
after that, I did go to USM and study music for a bit, and here we are today.
Um, so here you are, having moved to Maine from Virginia, Brandon. Assuming you didn't really know anybody here in Maine um, when you moved here. How did Crying Out Loud form? Um, when did it form? How did you meet bandmate Matt and all the other guys you have playing in your band Crying Out Loud?
Yeah, so when I moved up here, yeah, man, it was wild because, you know, I've been playing, since 14. I've just been playing music always, and then when I moved up here, obviously I knew nobody, um, and I just, from experience, when you start from zero, the main place to try to find players is open mics, and there was several around. When I moved here, I moved to Ellsworth originally, and there was a place there called Chummies that had open mics on Thursdays, and there was a place down in Bar Harbor called Little Anthony's on Tuesday nights. And it's a new place now. I can't. It's still there, but it's not Little Anthony's. It's
It's Pizzeria 131.
Pizzeria 131. And so so Tuesday nights I'd be at Little A's, and Thursday nights I'd be at Chummy's, and then we started getting a little following, and next thing you know, players would show up at both places, and we would start jamming, and I started finding folks that way. And then as I'm building the band, it's like anything, man. You're constantly changing players, and stuff comes up, and whatever. I mean, life changes, and this guy can't make gigs, and this guy's got a drinking problem, and this guy's divorcing his wife, whatever. All the stuff that goes on, and so over time, it's just you changing players. But Crying Out Loud kind of kept pushing forward, and I knew that I didn't want to do anything like an album or any originals or any of that until I sort of had my crew. I knew I needed the right bunch of guys, and so over time, what would happen was, the first one was our bass player Jim. When he came on board and he attached, and I'm like, okay, I've got this guy. He's in. And immediately after that, we got Ben. And same thing. I'm like, okay, this guy's in. And then at that point, I was like, okay, we got enough. Let's start working on some originals and that sort of thing. And then the way we met Matt was kind of interesting. Is he was in a band locally here that I knew some of the players, and but the band was retiring. Like they had issues and nothing bad. It was just everybody's getting older, and everybody's shoulders hurt and knees hurt, and load ins and load outs, and coming in at 3 in the morning, and all the stuff that goes with being in a working band. And they were just done. And Matt was so good that one of their founding members called me and said, "Hey, we're breaking up. Well, retiring. Breaking up's probably we're retiring, and this kid is really good, and I don't just want to throw him out in the cold. You guys need a keyboard player." And we happened to be looking at the time, so that's how I hooked up with Matt.
So cool. I want to ask each of you separately about each other. It's funny, I hear so many cool compliments come from our guests at the Ivy Manor Inn as they're leaving the shows. and they personally, thank me for everything that's going on there. And I always hear certain, type of compliments and things of that nature. So, Matt, I'd like to ask you about your bandmate Brandon. I've heard people refer to him as a true blues man. I had one guest. I had one guest leave the Ivy Manor Inn and tell me this guy's a modern day BB King. Um,
That's awesome.
tell us
Exactly.
about tell us about your bandmate a little bit, Matt. Your frontman Brandon Stallard.
He's a great guy, first of all. Unbelievably talented musician. Super selfless guy. Obviously, welcomed me into the band with open arms. Has given me so much freedom and ability to just be who I am on the keys, and he's a great leader for us. He really keeps things going in the right direction. He pushes us to be the best musicians that we can be. He's the one that does 99% of the gig scheduling for us. I mean, he's an integral part to what we do and how we do it.
That is very cool. Yeah, you guys are. I've seen full band. I was telling one of our other musicians, the cool thing about my job is A, I love music. B, while I'm working, I've got great shows going on every day. You guys are a big part of that. Season ends in late October. You get a month or two off, you start to miss it. So I jump online, I start looking at schedules. I see full band crying out loud is playing down at Fogtown. My sister lives in town. I made a night of it, and it was great to see you guys play again after a couple of months off, and see you guys with full band. And yeah, whether it's the two of you or full band, folks, these guys are a quality act to say the least. If you have not seen them play, they're not a hard band to find. They play all over Hancock County. They're one of our featured artists this year at the Ivy Manor Inn. Please come and watch them play. You will not be disappointed, that is for sure. Brandon, tell us about the man with the magic fingers, Mr. Matt Henley. I've had a lot of people tell me that he is one of the best keyboardists they've ever seen. I had a guest leave the Ivy Manor Inn one day and tell me he was the main version of Elton John. What can you tell us about Matt Henley?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, Matt is absolutely fantastic. When I got with him, I'm fortunate enough to have in crying out loud, I've got another absolute guitar virtuoso in Ben, and he's just immediately the guy. But when Matt came on, it was kind of this like, there's already a dude that does all that stuff, but he fits in perfectly. And I knew when I met him, I could tell he was nervous because he wanted in, but I knew in 6 notes. I mean, as soon as it's like he did these little bluesy little plinky plinks and those little blue notes and the little twirly things, and I'm like, okay, I already know this is the guy. And then it was just at that point, there's no question about his playing. It was just, who's he going to be? Is he going to be one of these drunks, one of these, freaks, one of these guys? He's been amazing. I mean, he fits this band like a glove. And not, by the way, not only is it just the prowess on the keyboards and all the stuff that he does, but he's an incredible Hammond player too. And one of the things that he fits in so well with the full band, and by the way, we're going to add this to the Ivy, is he's going to be doing the Hammond stuff there, but for the full band, he's able to lay on those Hammond chords and thicken everything up. And the other thing that's been great is he's fallen into this wonderful give and take relationship with Ben, where he's fine laying on that Hammond while Ben goes nuts, and then when it's his turn to go nuts, he'll go nuts just as much as Ben, and it's a great mix. And I you can see the reactions to the people, because it's funny, like even in our set list, by the way, I sort of planned this out where like if you've ever seen one of our shows from beginning to end, what I try to do is I'll start off the first one or two songs where the focus is on me and my lead work, right? Where it's like, okay, yeah, this guy can play, but and then all of a sudden it's Ben, and then they're like you see the jaws hit the floor, like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming, and then Matt, it's like, whoa, like, where's the average dude, like, where's that guy at? So it's nice being surrounded with players that help push you. And Matt, even though he's the youngest guy in the band, he's one of those players that pushes everybody, me included. It's like you got to come prepared. You got to be ready because Matt will be.
No doubt. I mean, I didn't know a lot about you guys. I know a lot of people in the music community. My goal at the Ivy Manor Inn was to build a deep and talented roster. 4 years later, we have done so. You came highly recommended from Mark Blues Boy Canner, who I understand was part of this album-making process that you talked about earlier. I actually have a copy of it right here, folks. AI is kind of messing that up.
Of course they are.
There it is.
Of course
There it is.
Crying Out Loud. Play Loud and Smoke Often is the name of this CD. It's a great listen, folks. We can certainly get you a copy of that if you are interested in doing so. Guys, tell me about the process of making this album. I find it fascinating that bands like yourselves form, write an album, record it. It seems complicated to me. It seems timely. It seems like a lot of, time and energy goes into making these albums. Take me through the process that you guys went through when you created this album, and what was the thought process behind it?
Well, I knew that I knew I wanted to do it. I just again, for years I had just a revolving door of players that I knew were not the players. I mean, I knew that this isn't the guy to go into this with. But as we started having people latch on, I'm like, okay, this is the team. And really, what really happened. I mean, I wish I could say it was something that I pushed and did, but what happened was we ended up through a mutual friend opened up for Paul Nelson band. And for those that don't know who Paul Nelson is, he was Johnny Winter's guitar player, manager, and producer for the last 15 years of Johnny Winter's life. And incredible musician, always the best guitar player in the room. He's worked with everybody. He's produced Johnny Winter. He's done it all. Grammy Award winner. He liked our stuff, and we opened for him. It was at a venue called the Rack up in Sugarloaf, and we were staying at a hotel up there, and so was Paul and his band. I remember we opened for him. We threw a few originals in that set, and we were staying at the same hotel, and he invited us to breakfast the next morning. And by the way, I just have to say this real quick. He made breakfast, and he has this secret, legendary French toast that is like Johnny Winter's favorite French toast. And he made that for us, and I was like, this is great. And it was astounding. But anyway, during that breakfast meeting, he asked us to go over some originals, and he was like, oh, I really like what I'm hearing. Everything was really raw at the time, but he asked if he could produce our record, and we're like, absolutely. And the process was Ben and I went down to see, we drove down, Paul lives in Connecticut, we went down to see him, played basically the album. He gave us some notes, go back and change this, fix this, add this needs a bridge, this needs a thing, whatever. And then he set up a date, and he was literally like pushing us. I mean, he forced us to do things where if it was left up to me, it wouldn't have gotten done. I could see that. Like he was going, by this date, you need to have this done. And if you don't, he's like, we're going in. One of the things he threatened me with, and it freaked me out. I'm still scared about it. He said, if you don't have the lyrics written by the time we go into the studio, I'm going to lock you in a room and you're going to write lyrics while we're recording these songs and you're going to come out and sing them. And the thought of that much pressure, I lost my mind. I'm like, nope, I was working, 7 nights a week, hours and hours trying to get stuff done because I didn't want that kind of pressure to happen. So he was a lot of the driving force behind making us get to work. And it was nice too because he had the ability to, because of his background, because of who he was, because of his credentials and his pedigree, we were able to, I remember at one point he locked Ben in a room and forced Ben to write a guitar solo for 4 hours. Nobody could, you could bring him water and that was it. It was the only time I'd ever seen Ben upset. Like, that guy practices smiling. He's always happy. He was visibly shaken from that process. But that was that's what Paul had. And in regards to Mark Cantor, I do have to, I love telling this story because it's such a shout out to how great Mark is. And I love Mark. He's awesome. By the way, he was one of the first guys I met when I moved up here and started doing the open mic thing. He was the open, welcoming, he was always, even from early on, someone I could always call, ask a question. Who do you know that plays bass? Who do you know that does this? What happens when this happens? What do you think about this? He would always give me his 2 cents, and it was great. But when I have to tell the story because I'm just so proud of Mark for this. So when we were recording the record, I don't remember how many, there's 3 songs, 4 songs, maybe 5 on there that have harmonica, and Mark's an incredible harmonica player. So Paul he had access to Muddy Waters' harmonica player, and that's who he was going to have do the harmonica parts on our record. He had done a record with Johnny Winter, who was using all of those guys on his record that he won the Grammy for. And when we were trying to get harmonica parts, we just wanted to kind of a feel of, some loose interpretations to send to Muddy Waters' guy. I can't remember the guy's name. But Mark comes in, and kind of like me with Matt, with 6 notes I knew. I'll never forget, Mark comes in, lays down a couple quick little warm-ups, goes into the room, and I'll never forget, Paul turned to me and he goes, "That's our guy." He goes, "I can already tell that's the guy." And of course, the rest is on the record. It's some of the best harmonica I've ever heard. It's incredible. I have to say this too. I'm not really a fan of the harmonica. I've never have been. It's just an instrument that doesn't do it for me. But when Mark plays, I can't get enough. It's amazing. And he knows, not only is it the feel and the notes and the stuff that he's playing, he knows when to play, he knows when not to play, he knows when to go heavy, he knows when to go soft. It's just ingrained in him, and he does such a wonderful job, and he ended up beating Muddy Waters' harmonica player to be on our record. So I'm always happy to share that story on his behalf.
Very cool story, to say the least. What I know about Crying Out Loud, I would describe you guys as a touring band. A lot of my musicians at the Ivy Manor Inn pretty much stay close to home. You guys will take your show on the road. I don't know that you've ever turned down a gig as long as it's within reason logistically, but you've definitely taken your show on the road to other states as well. Tell us some of the places you've played these gigs, some of the places that have stuck out, that you've played some of these gigs outside of Maine, and what's it like, touring with a band, going away to these faraway places?
that's why it's so important to have the right guys. I mean, obviously, like, this morning when we were trying to sound check and everything, I don't remember if it was you or Matt. Somebody made a comment like, the sound comes first, and then we'll figure out the visual and all that. So same thing in the band, right? The players come first and what they can do, but outside of that, it's the camaraderie, man. It really is a band of brothers. I mean, or it can be, and it should be. I know not every band is like that, and mine hasn't been like that until these last couple of years. So it's special when it's right. And I feel like that's what it is now. So it's just a blast. It's just a great time. I mean, everybody's just laughing and joking and hanging out and having a great time. It's just I don't know. It's like summer camp, forever and ever and ever. And yeah, we played a few places in Massachusetts. There's a place down there called Gracie's right on the beach. That's pretty awesome. We had a lot of fun there, and we're getting ready. We're doing like a all the way to Florida tour in October, so we're kind of focusing on that. So yeah, and we've got a big one coming up. We're playing Jimmy's in New Hampshire on April 7th. Yeah, April 7th. We're looking forward to that one quite a bit. That's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, it's just having all the guys together, man. Just having a good time. Everybody's just gets along so well.
Now, where is Jimmy's in New Hampshire located?
Portsmouth, I believe.
Okay, that's a great town. And
We're excited. It's looks like a beautiful venue. It's gonna be fun.
no doubt. Now, when you guys head to Florida, you guys all jammed into like one minivan with all your gear, or are there multiple vehicles?
Well, no, I've got a Suburban that'll seat 7, and then we'll have a trailer. So the equipment will live in the trailer, and the Suburban will seat the band, and yeah, so we'll all travel together. That'll save on gas and that kind of thing. So
I can't wait to hear about some of the stories that take place after the end of this tour. That's for darn sure. Matt, you're in a blues band with Brandon, as we know, called Crying Out Loud. I was talking to Corey Fong at one of your shows last year, and his impression of you was you were a very versatile keyboardist, more or less saying that blues isn't your only wheelhouse. What other styles of music do you like to play with that keyboard, Matt? And where do you see yourself going with this in the future?
Well, I'm classically and jazz trained, so I have a pretty strong background in both of those. But I love playing jazz, and I think that's something that really appealed to me about being in a blues band, is that jazz and blues really overlap a lot, and I saw that as a really cool opportunity to kind of take a different spin on what I already knew how to do.
That is very cool. Yeah, I mean, I think you could probably play in any type of band, whether it be an 80s cover band, the blues band you're doing now, rock, classical. I mean, I've heard a lot of great things about your guys' band, and something that keeps coming back to me in terms of the compliments that I hear is how well you guys are as musicians. You talked about your guitarist that plays with you as well. Your bassist is rock solid. You guys are playing off each other, whether it's in the full band or the duo that you do at the Ivy Manor Inn. So you guys are very versatile. Keep up the great work. I know you're making a lot of people happy down at the Ivy Manor Inn, and one of your biggest fans is the bar manager named Brian Goff. So keep up the great work, guys. Brandon, you have a really cool story that I've heard you tell at the Ivy Manor Inn. And what makes it a cool story is, as you're telling the story, Matt ever so gently is adding a little bit of keyboard instrumental to the story to kind of spruce it up a little bit. And this story is when you actually met the man, the myth, the legend, Buddy Guy himself in real life. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that story?
Yeah. By the way, all those little piano noodles, that's all by design. Have the music going on.
It certainly adds to it, that's for sure.
It was a weird, surreal kind of a thing. So, I told you when I was like 14, I started pulling these blues records up, and very quickly, Buddy Guy becomes one of my heroes. Him and Freddie King, and I even naming is ridiculous because there's, I'd leave out 20 other ones. But Buddy's definitely one of my top tier, and he has a club in Chicago called Legends, and just that place. Anyway, if you ever get a chance, oh my God, it's the whole thing is like a museum. I mean, you walk in and there's guitars all over the wall, and they're all signed, and they're all like, Two Buddy Guy from Keith Richards, Two Buddy Guy from Tom Petty, Two Buddy Guy from Bruce Springsteen, on and on and on. And like the bar tops are covered in all these old Polaroids, and it's like Buddy with Janis Joplin and, Buddy with Jimi Hendrix, and you're like, oh my God, it's just incredible. But there are 7 nights a week, okay? And I'm telling you right now, the Tuesday night band that nobody can name will make you want to go home and practice. I mean, the amount of talent that is in that room is unbelievable on any night. And so I went. Every time I go to Chicago, I stop by Legends. But it was my first or second. I think it was my first time there. My very first time at Legends. I was mixed up on the times. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was like an hour and a half early. But the doors were open, and it was kind of a museum. It's like a bar / museum because of all the cool stuff that you could spend 2 hours easily just looking around at all the cool stuff. So I got there like super ridiculously early, and there was the ticket taker, and I just came in and paid my whatever, and there was a bartender and there was one guy at the bar. And as I walk in, I'm looking, and I'm like, that guy at the bar looks like Buddy Guy. It was across the room. Buddy's usually wearing these silky Hawaiian-y shirts with polka dots and stuff on them. I just knew that from 1,000 photographs and whatever. And I could tell, I was like, that's him. And I went over, and the whole place is empty. There's a bartender, ticket taker, me, and Buddy Guy. That's it in the whole place. And so I walked up. I just like, hey man, and I just started talking to him, and we started chatting. And I don't remember how it came up, but he started mentioning something about scotch, and I was like, well, because he was drinking scotch, okay. And then, by the way, this is 5 o'clock. He's drinking scotch, and at the time he had to be like mid 70s, maybe something along those lines. And so we started talking. I said, I'm more of a bourbon guy. I really don't know anything about scotch. He goes, well, sit down. And he called the bartender over and poured me a scotch. Like, Buddy Guy bought me a scotch. Like, it was weird. And then we sat there and we talked about guitars and amps and, what do you play and what do you play through and do you like this? Have you tried this? And like just two dudes hanging out. And within, a certain period of time, like a line started forming behind me. And I'm like, okay, these guys want to see him. I don't want to be monopolizing, all the time. So I just took my drink, excused myself, whatever. I went and sat down. And when you're at Legends, you get a chair. You don't get a table. So if you're there by yourself, you end up at a table of strangers. And there was a guy sitting beside me who was a bass player locally that everybody knew. And he tells me, he goes, whenever Buddy Guy's in the house, whoever the band is, if he can come up on stage at any point, and you're all of a sudden now his backup band. And this, like I said, this is about 5 o'clock, and Buddy's over there drinking scotch. And this is like 1 in the morning. There's only been 2 bands have gone through, killer bands, unbelievable night. I mean, I'm drinking, having a great time. And all of a sudden, Buddy comes up on stage. They were playing some slow blues tune or something. And he came up with a glass. He was still drinking from 5 o'clock to 1 in the morning, mid-70s, still going, comes up with a glass and elbows this dude out the way and gets on the mic and starts singing a little bit. He's saying like, I don't know, 2 or 3 verses and then just staggered off. Like, that was the first time I'd ever seen Buddy perform live. He said like 4 sentences and that was it. But I've seen him a bunch, obviously, since then. And now he's kind of retired. I think he's in his 80s now. And I'm happy that I've seen him a bunch. But it was interesting because he was the most regular dude ever. Like, I think at the time, all these blues guys that, all the legends, they're all gone. Buddy's the last one. Everyone you can think of is gone. There's the new blood, but all of the old legends are he's the last one. So he sort of has this reverence about him, and it was not there while we were chatting. It was just, I could have been talking to Matt. I mean, it was like we're just hanging out, drinking and talking music and instruments, which is what every musician does. Right.
Absolutely, that is so cool. Matt, have you ever run into any of your piano heroes, if you will? Have you ever seen them live? Have you ever met anybody in person like that?
No, not really. And that's something that I definitely really would really like to do. Obviously won't get the chance to see Ray Charles, but I think Billy Joel's still touring, and I really would like to get a chance to see him, before he gets done. I know he's getting up there too, so it probably won't be too much longer. And I obviously my middle name's Henley. I go by Matt Henley on stage, and it's because my mom is such a huge Eagles fan. I've actually seen the Eagles live, and that was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. So
no doubt. Sounds like Ray Charles is right at the top of the list for you. Did you ever see the movie made about Ray Charles, and what did you think of it?
I love that movie. Jamie Foxx did it so much justice. Couldn't have done a better job playing Ray. It was just spot on.
I thought it was a great movie as well, and I learned a lot about him and his life after watching that movie, that's for sure. I want to go back to your album for a minute, guys. Play It Loud and Smoke Often. The title sounds pretty self-explanatory. Is there any backstory to the title of the album? And I noticed not only is there a cigar on the back sitting on a glass of scotch or whiskey, but I noticed in some of your band photos, Brandon likes to have a stogie hanging out of his mouth on occasion.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, is there any backstories or cool significance to cigars in your band?
Yeah, so when I moved up to Maine, my wife got a great offer. That was part of what spurred the whole thing, and she got an opportunity. Yeah, it's a whole thing, but she had when I met her, she had 2 kids, and then we have one together, and in a lot of ways, she felt like she missed out on a lot with her first 2 kids because she was working so much, and it was always mommy's working, mommy's working, mommy's working. So having an opportunity, so part of it was she wanted to come to Maine for this opportunity because she'd be able to kind of make the same money she was making, but she'd be home and she'd be able to be mom. So it was important for her to do that. But on the flip side, it was the opposite for me because I had nothing up here. I had no prospects, no family, no friends, my whole world. Matter of fact, I never lived anywhere but Fredericksburg, Virginia, my whole life. I mean, there was no connection to anything else. And but I was like, look, we'll do it. I'm just gonna come up here and support you, and it's gonna be great. So my only condition is I'm gonna smoke cigars and play the blues. And she's like, fine, go ahead. And so I was like, I'm in. Let's do this. And I got for anyone that's into cigars, they're sort of like, stepping stones along the way. And at some point, most people that are into cigars get a humidor. and I got a custom humidor done from this guy in Maryland. This great work, and he could do all this cool stuff with it. I had it made out of like Tamo ash, which is what Fender uses for their high-end custom shop guitars, and I did a Fender logo on it and really guitarified it and musicified it. But inside in the tray, I had him burned into the tray, which was kind of my mantra, which was play loud and smoke often. That's what I would say all the time. Like that's what I do. And so the first album, we're like, that's got to be the name of the album. And then the single from that album is called "I Smoke Cigars and Play the Blues," which is based on moving up here, and that's what I'm going to do. That's the hook of the song, right? People ask me what I do. I tell them I smoke cigars and play the blues, which became a true story. Like, what do? I smoke cigars and play the blues.
I see that that song is the first track on your record here. I'd like to ask each both separately. Do you have a favorite song that you like to play off this album? And whatever that song may be, what are the reasons behind you like playing that song so much? Matt, you first.
Jeez, that's tough. When I first joined the band, the first song I ever heard them play was "Time Away from You," and they had done the show on the night show. They had done that, and I that was the first video I ever saw of them, and so I think there's something about that song that's kind of drawn me to it, just because it was the first song that I heard, and I loved it. I was like, this is great. I already loved this, and then obviously, Smoke Cigars. He's given me an awesome opportunity to kind of take a solo in there that didn't exist, in the creation of the song itself, So that one's definitely one that I really enjoy playing now, because I get to have a little something in there.
No doubt. How about you, Brandon?
For me, it's a little more sentimental. So early on, when Paul Nelson was agreeing to produce the record, it was a different level for us, something we weren't used to. And, there was contracts involved and attorneys and all this, which, of course. But I just, I don't know, I wasn't thinking in those terms, but yes, of course. And in the contract, it had on there that Paul Nelson would play guitar on one of the tracks. And when I read, and by just side note, the reason for that is Paul was trying to get, he wanted a bunch of names on the record, Paul Nelson, featuring Paul Nelson. By the way, the horns from Little Feat are all the horn parts on the record. He had Little Feat doing the horns. Paul Nelson, originally he was going to have Muddy Waters guy playing harp, all this. He was trying to get a list of named people. But I knew that instead was the rockin' Stevie, that's the one, like that's gotta be the Paul Nelson one. And what was interesting about that is, Paul Nelson passed away 10 days after this record came out. And that was the last record he ever produced, one. And instead has a guitar solo. I take the first one, Ben takes the second one, and Paul Nelson takes the last one. And that was the last guitar solo he ever recorded and played. So to me, every time we play that song, I think of Paul.
That is very cool. Very cool. I love songs that sound great, but also have really good meaning behind them as well. That's what makes a great song. And if the song never gets old, it stands the test of time. And I mean, I'm still listening to songs from the 80s that never get old for me.
Right. Because you're
all for the same reasons.
Going on during those times. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When Paul passed away, I couldn't listen to the record for almost a year. I mean, it was probably 8 or 9 months. I couldn't even listen to the record. And by the way, we had our record label was like clamoring for us to do these tunes. and they weren't on our set list, and it's because I couldn't listen to the record. I just couldn't learn the songs and get them down and practice and rehearse them because his fingerprints were on everything, and there was so like you're saying there was that's the story of that song instead, but there's 100 other Paul Nelson stories, and I'll hear all these little things, right? Because I was there, I saw all the stuff I know, and it's like, oh yeah, he did that. Oh, he came up with that. Oh, that was his idea. Oh, he was the one that thought of that. And there's 100 of those, and it made it very tough. Now I'm at a point where I listen and enjoy. It's like, oh yeah, I remember Paul coming up with that one, and there's a funny story, and there's a funny story, and that kind of thing. And honestly, being in the studio with him was similar to us being on the road. I mean, we clicked. He was one of us immediately. He was literally the fifth member of the band, and he had a great time, and we became great friends. It was beyond just being a producer. He would stay at my house, and he was producing other acts at the time, or bringing people up to start that, and because all of it got cut short, obviously, but we spent an astronomical amount of time together. So yeah, listening to the record now is more of a remembrance and reverence thing, but for a long time I couldn't even listen.
Absolutely. I want to take you guys back to something that I personally witnessed at the Ivy Manor Inn. It was after one of your early shows. When I have new acts play the Ivy Manor Inn, I'm thinking about a lot of things: length of the show, how good does the show sound, and one of the criteria I look for as well is the crowd response. Seemed after your show one day, it was an early show, I look up, I see Matt signing people's T-shirts. I see Brandon signing album covers. Both of you signing autographs. People are coming up, taking selfies with you. There was literally a line of people waiting to do this. I couldn't think of anything other than you guys looked like a couple of rock stars down on the red carpet at the Grammy Awards. Your thoughts?
I mean, unbelievable feeling. I'm just up there doing what I love to do, and to get that type of reaction out of people is surreal. Like I said, it's just me doing what I do every day and what I love to do. So when people react like that, I still really don't know how to respond, because I'm just playing the piano, it's not, I don't know, I guess it's all on perspective, but
Yeah, I remember one show we were there, and that's the thing. It's like I feel like we get these little micro doses, so to speak, of that sort of thing, because we're trying, right? We're trying to climb. We're on our way to being a national act. We're signed to the record label. We've got videos out. We've got a record out. We're getting ready to do a second record. So we're doing all the stuff to go in this direction, and it's slowly taking hold. And what'll happen is every once in a while I'll get a moment like that, and it's like, wow, but I remember one of my favorite moments it's similar to what you're talking about. Matt and I were at the Ivan, we're playing Smoke Cigars, and how the people are walking past that massive amount of traffic, foot traffic on Main Street there, and we were in the middle of Smoke Cigars. And some lady I'd never seen starts singing along and says, "Oh, I saw you guys on the Cashman show." Playing, because we played that song. We did "Time Away from Me, We Could Smoke Cigars." So she heard that song. Was it the Cashman show or the one from Maine?
The night show.
The night show. And it's like, it was just like, wow, And I've had a few moments like that. I remember one night at the Rack. I remember because the Rack is famous for big crowds. Like the people are coming regardless of the band. It's not like the band is drawing these people in. They're coming to party. There's no place open that late. It's in the middle of Sugarloaf. It's a ski resort. They've been snowmobiling all day. They're ready to party. and these crowds show up. But I remember singing, playing Smoke Cigars there one night, and by the second time around with the chorus, we're playing. People ask me what I do, and the crowd, like 200 people, go smoke cigars, and I play the blues, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the greatest moment of my entire life. Like this is the coolest thing ever. So and I remember that day at the Ivy. It was awesome. I mean, it was like, all right, man. This is people are digging it, and that's which I think you want as a musician. You want everyone. I don't know, not everyone, but I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, it's the art and the thing, and I agree, but you're always going to be happier when people are receiving it well, and when I see that, it does. It feels great.
Well, it shows you what the power of music can do. It gives good vibes, good feelings. If people are up there wanting autographs and pictures taken with you guys, it's just it's a sign of the appreciation that they have for you guys. I was standing there with my assistants Orville and Cebu as we were witnessing this. I told them if this keeps up, we might have to bring a table out for your next gig and set up an autograph signing after the show. So, but no, that was really fun to see, and that sold me. Like I said, crowd reaction is a big variable that I look for when we have new acts play there, and as many people as you made happy that day, it was just a no-brainer to have you guys be one of our featured artists moving forward. That's for sure. Last one for me, guys. I always like to ask our musicians this. The Ivy is a very special place, not only to play music but to stay and hang out and have drinks and just everything that it has going on there. But from a musical standpoint, I always like to ask this question to our musicians, and that's basically, what was your experiences like overall last year playing the Ivy Manor Inn? Looked like you guys were having a lot of fun up there. And, what makes it so special of a venue to play at?
After you.
Well, for me, and it's a combo of two things. One, the venue itself is amazing. I mean, the whole outdoor vibe, the fact that people are sitting down, and I don't know what it is about. I mean, I know you serve plenty of drinks there, but there's something about the wine crowd. It's like they're just sitting there with their leg over their knee, hanging back, glass of wine, and they're just really listening and enjoying the music. I mean, it's from just an experience standpoint, and it's a building. It builds to be a pretty large crowd by the end of the night, often, and you really do have people enjoying it, and that is the biggest thing. The other thing that kind of, and it's a geographical thing, just living up here, but and I touched on this with you earlier on the phone, but living in Maine, we don't get a lot of summer. The weather is cold most of the time, and I feel like people really are conditioned to try to squeeze every drop out of summer that they possibly can. And to me, one of those things is outdoor music. When people can start to play outside, that's just a symbol of it's summertime, and we're gonna get everything we can out of this. We're gonna push it. That's when you talked about the time changes and the extra stuff. In my mind, it's like that's just squeezing more out of the summer. So I think it's the two things. It's the people there that are really there to listen. They're there to have a good time. They want you to succeed. They're rooting for you. They want to be entertained and they want to have a good time. And then two, just the sort of metaphor. I don't know if that's the right word. Of this is what summer is about. This is literally the definition of what every musician wants to be doing in the summer.
No doubt. Your thoughts, Matt?
It's a beautiful venue. First of all, I mean, it's just a nice shady place, and like you were saying, everyone just can sit back, relax, really enjoy the music. One of my favorite things about the venue is the diverse crowd that it draws. Being where you are, I had the opportunity to speak with people from the UK there last year, from all over the United States, Canada. Someone was from like New Zealand or something. I mean, like I met a lot of different people. I mean, even Corey, obviously, he is from everywhere, and and I mean, but he's one of the coolest guys that you'll ever meet, and just the opportunity to come across so many different super supportive, music loving people.
Absolutely. To your point about Corey, I just talked to him the other night. He is in Hong Kong as we speak.
Wow.
I was calling to make sure that he knew the opening date was May 2nd this year. You're going to be back on time, right?
Gonna be back here by then.
Yeah, great point. You meet people there from all over the world. The venue itself speaks for itself. A very active sidewalk to your left with a second audience. Open air restaurants and bars around us. A very active and busy main street with cars driving up and down. There's a lot going on there. I think a question that I just thought of with all this activity going in and around you, does it distract you from your music at all, or once you're locked into your set and your show, you're just good to go?
I think if anything, it enhances it. I've said this forever. When people that don't perform, they don't realize that there is, in addition to whatever skill sets you have, your playing, your voice, your whatever it is, whatever levels those are, there is an energy, and it's I don't want to sound like some crystal hippie, but it's true. There's an energy that you are giving out, and when you are getting that energy back, I'm not even remotely exaggerating. He's already shaking his head because he knows you play better. You not only enjoy it more, but you literally play better. I've played many clubs where nobody has cared, and you're pushing and you're trying. I believe in playing, every night like it's your last night, because you never know. So we push and we give, and that energy's going out and nothing's coming back. Versus I've played clubs where there's 12 or 15 people and that's it, but they are into it, and we just amp up. I mean, it's just and the Ivy is not 12 or 15 people. It's a very large crowd of people that are giving it back. So that's a huge part of it. So the bigger that crowd is, and even, the people yelling from the sidewalk and that kind of thing, it's not distracting. If anything, it's energy coming back to us, and it just pushes. It pushes us and pushes us.
I couldn't agree more.
No doubt. People come for the show. They're in tune. You'll hear applause typically at the end of each song. And like the story I just told about you guys at show's end, they're certainly showing you the love. They want pictures. They want autographs. They want to know where else you're playing. They want to know about future records. They're asking me all sorts of questions as well about the bands, how I met them. It's been an incredible ride for me working there. I just want to say I'm so appreciative and feel lucky that I met you guys. You guys were an incredible addition to the Ivy Manor Inn active roster last year. You made us that much stronger. I'm so looking forward to having you guys with us for a full season, because it was about halfway through the season once you guys kind of came into the fray. And after that first gig, like I said, you guys rocked the house. You got bombarded by a third of the lawn that day. That sold me. That sold me is one of the big reasons why you guys deserve to be playing there on a weekly basis. That's for darn sure. Folks, if you've never seen Brandon and Matt play or full band Crying Out Loud, please do. They are a quality act, to say the least. They're typically with us on Wednesdays at the Ivy Manor Inn. However, they do have a little bit more availability this year as well, so we could be squeezing them into some other dates. We start live music on May 2nd. Our annual Kentucky Derby party is on May 3rd, and we will take the show all the way to the end of October as long as we can, weather permitting. If you haven't seen these guys play, again, they're phenomenal. Guys, to our listeners watching who have never seen you play or heard you play before, would you be so kind to give us a sample of your music and give us a preview of what folks can expect to see at the Ivy Manor Inn this upcoming season?
Yeah. We can run one for you. Yeah.
Awesome.
We'd love to.
All right. Sight to the blind. My baby love cause the sun to shine. My sweet little thing. She's my pride and joy. My sweet little baby. I'm a little love boy. And I love my baby, my heart and soul. Love like ours, it won't never grow old. My sweet little thing. My pride and joy, my sweet little baby. I'm a little love boy, and I love my baby. She's long and lean. You mess with her, you see a man get mean. My sweet little thing. She's my pride and joy, my sweet little baby. I'm a little love boy. Till the end of time, my sweet little thing. She's my pride and joy, my sweet little baby. I'm a little lover boy.
Woo! Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Oh, man, I miss your playing so much. I really appreciate you guys doing that.
We can't
Folks,
wait to be back.
Yeah, folks, this is Ivy Stars, Brandon Stallard and Matt Henley of the band Crying Out Loud. They're going to be with us for the full season this year. You're going to see them on a weekly basis and most weeks. Guys, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I learned a lot about you. I hope our listeners learned a lot about you too, and I look forward to seeing you that first week at the Ivy Manor Inn.
It was awesome. Our pleasure being here, and we look forward to it.
Thank you so much, guys. Folks, this is Brian Goff, bar manager, Henry Hotels. This is Ivy Stars, Matt Henley, and Brandon Stallard of Crying Out Loud. Thanks so much for tuning in this week, and we'll see you next week. Have a great night, and thank you.